Friends, there is a boarding school named Brookfield. Boarding school is a school where children live there, eat and drink there, study there, play there, and go home only during holidays, and spend the rest of the year there. There is a small house in front of this school, Mr. Swick's house. An old man sits near the window here, and the name of this man is Mr. Chips. Mr. Chips is about 85 years old, and he has become very old, but he has taught as a teacher in Brookfield School for about 50 years of his life. His routine is so well managed with the school that when he has to guess the time, he listens to the school bell. Friends, there are bells at different times in the school, like when there is a roll call. There is a bell for that. There is a bell for eating. There is a bell for sleeping, so by listening to different bells, Mr. Chips guesses that it is time now. Mr. Chips has a habit that whenever the last bell rings in school, he turns the dial of his watch so that he can start again the next day. After that, he puts an iron grill near the fire that is burning, extinguishes it, and goes to bed holding a detective novel. He reads a little of the novel before going to sleep and then goes to sleep. A doctor named Dr. Mary Well comes every 2 weeks and checks Mr. Chips. She tells Mr. Chips that you are not sick, rather you are younger than me. You are just an old boy, that is. You are a boy who has just become old and you have no problem. If you die, you will die a natural death because you have passed that age when people get big diseases. Friends, this doctor consoles Mr. Chips, but takes Mistress Vicat aside and makes him understand that you should take care of him. You know he has a lump in his chest, and this happens with increasing age. This tells us that Mr. Chips has a lump, but the doctor is hiding it. Friends, Mr. Chips still remembers the day when he came to Brookfield School on the first day. At that time, the principal of the school was Mr. Weatherby, who was a very good person, and he managed the school very well. This was the same principal, who told Mr. Chips some methods of teaching, and told him some things which were useful to Mr. Chips later in his life in the school. Mr. Chips remembers that when he came to school on the first day, a cricket match was going on between Brookfield and Burnhurst. One team was of Brookfield and the other was of Burnhurst. He remembers that there was a short, fat boy in the Burnhurst team who scored a century in cricket. When Mr. Chips went to the class on the first day to teach, he saw that the whole class was made up of boys. The class is full, and all these boys are waiting for the teacher to come like wild animals so that they can make fun of him, and all these boys always do this whenever a new teacher comes. They try to make fun of him as much as possible. Now Mr. Chips had to prove himself that he is not a weak teacher, but a very strict teacher, so he was mentally prepared for that. As soon as he entered the class, he saw that many boys were already waiting for the opportunity to make fun of Mr. Chips by doing mischief. So one of the boys, whose name is Coley, dropped the cover of the desk down. Mr. Chips told him to stand up and gave him 100 lines to write as a punishment. That is, he told his punishment that he will write 100 lines and bring them. Now, this kind of punishment is mostly given. These lines are, "I am sorry," that is, there is some line of apology in which an apology is sought. He will write that line 100 times and bring it. This was his punishment. After this, the class became straight and came under the control of Mr. Chips. Now that boy who had red hair and his name was Coley, when he grew up and joined the mosques of London, his younger son also came to study in the same school with the same teacher. So Mr. Chips told him that your father Coley was the first student whom I punished, and he was a big fool. So I think you have also become a fool. Now, when many more years passed, his son also came to study with Mr. Chips. By this time, Mr. Chips had become very old, and he told Coley that your father was Coley, and his father was also Coley. Friends, these three were father, grandfather, and then grandson. All three were named Coley. So Mr. Chips told his grandson that your father and your grandfather studied with me, and they both were idiots, so I think you who came third must also be an idiot. This made the whole class laugh, and it became a joke that whenever a new student came, he was either the son or grandson of the previous student. Friends, Mr. Chips, who is now quite old, when he often sits and remembers these things, tears come out of his eyes.